La sirène, la baleine, chapeau tombé dans la mer. La sirène, la baleine, chapeau tombé dans la mer.
Water holds memories. I know this now. I used to have this dream that I'm standing at the water's edge, looking out across the ocean. And there I would see this land far off in the distance, just big enough to make it out as a speck on the horizon. And I would feel the water beckoning me, calling me to step in, to get a closer look. And so I do. I step into the water until the water is waist deep. And then I snap out of it and I think, whoa, I'm getting too far out. I need to go back to the shore. But now there's this red string floating on the surface of the water, billowing in the waves. And I grab it and see it's tied to my wrists. And I step backwards and I feel it tied around my ankles. And then the red string goes taut. And I'm yanked under the water and it's pulling me quickly in the direction of the far off land. And I'm holding my breath and I'm fighting with everything in me to swim up to the surface, desperately trying to untie myself to unloose this string from around my wrists or my ankles. And I can't do it because now it's fused to my skin. I have no choice but to be pulled across the distance between the shore where I was and the land way off into the distance. The air is bubbling out of my mouth as I'm quickly running out of air. And then there's a voice. I don't know whose voice it is, but it sounds familiar, saying to me, "Stop fighting." And so I do. I'm about to surrender and breathe this water into my lungs. And just as I'm about to open my mouth, I would wake up. I would wake up. Now, I am awake.
Hey, Candice, look, Uncle Gary here. I'm trying to reach you, and it's approaching the later time of the evening. It's after the Super Bowl. We're probably still hearing a lot of noise outside. I'll try to reach you tomorrow when I know that you are available, okay? I did leave you a note on your Facebook. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
He is dead. I imagined this moment. I imagined the day that I got the call and I found out that the man who was slated to be my father had passed. Tried to envision how I would feel, what I would say, so that I would know if I needed to reach out more, say more, ask for more. And now that I'm here, I mostly feel nothing. The problem with burying someone who's been dead to you for a long time is that you first have to resurrect them to even know that they were alive, and then you have to kill that image, that created projection of their life. So now you grieve not only for the imagined life they lived, but you grieve from the guilt of now having in effect acted as their murderer. Funny how only in death did I ever fully realize that my father had in fact been real. Somewhere. I flew out immediately. I packed some winter clothes, which means I had to borrow a down jacket and gloves from a friend. I packed only a backpack's worth of items. I hadn't anticipated being gone long. I brought my iPad and my microphone. I don't know why. I just might want to document. I don't know. At the airport, I tried to imagine what journey I was on. I pulled out my mic and recorded the sounds of the airport. The banality of it all matched the numbness inside me. I just watched all the people walk, knowing that they had no idea that I was on my way to make peace with my dead father. My dead, absent father. I wrote while at the airport that my father's absence was a very present part of my life. My mother and my father's absence raised me, molded me. I am who I am because of them. I don't know that I knew that before. At the hospital, I consider pulling out my mic and recording the sounds of the respirator. He's dead, brain dead. Still on a respirator though, so it looks like he's breathing. I can't take photos. I think of sneaking them. I wonder if my desire to document this moment is to separate myself from feeling this moment. I decide to resist the urge and leave my mic in my bag. I do, however, take a photo of my hand on his hand. Cliché, I know. He's got scars, marks, and recent wounds. I know what they're from. No one mentions it, though. I realize that this is the first time I have ever looked at his face this long. I can't look away. It's my face staring back at me. My eyebrows, my nose, my ears. We're the same shade of brown. This man, this stranger, has blood that runs through me. And I never knew that before. Yes, hi. I'm Emmanuel de Meza's next of kin. No, he was unmarried. Yes, his daughter. I just flew in this morning from Texas. No, I'm from California. Yes, I can sign. My father, Emmanuel, his next of kin. I don't know his birthday. I don't know his address. Yes, his daughter. Yes. Legal next of kin? Yeah, legal next of kin. Next of kin? Next of kin. 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 The words feel like fraud. We were kin. I was his daughter. I had a father. I am a daughter of a father. I didn't know that. I didn't know. Ma'am, we're ready to disconnect him now. Wait, I can someone please stop? Because everything is moving so fast. I just found out I had a father, a real one, with my face and my eyebrows, with my brown, and now he is dead. And I've never said that before today. My first day being a daughter of a father is also my last, and we were kin. Now, what am I? I'm staying with my uncle in Brooklyn. We have reconnected over hospital talk and unspoken words. We joke and find awkward laughter together in morbid circumstances. My uncle has a strong Haitian accent. Candice substitutes R's for W's. I imagine that on the brightest Haitian day, the sun looks like my uncle's smile. He is my father's youngest brother. My mother recalls her first time meeting him in New York and how he took her all around the city, and she had such a good time with him. Your father was gone trying to score drugs, she says casually. But oh, how fun was your uncle? He is careful with his Creole. He tries not to talk over my head, but how can he not when the lilt of his voice ascends and descends like the mountains of Haiti that I've never seen? There is a land, a homeland there with verbs and colors and melodies I don't know. Some things are too rich, too soil-based for me to know. So he shifts to Creole. I'm locked out of the mountains in his words. My uncle is telling me a story about growing up in Haiti and momentarily pauses between worlds. He can't remember the word in English. Oiseau, the oiseau. I told him that the English word is bird, that I had taken French in school in the hopes that one day I could communicate with my grandmother, his mother. I told him that the word was bird. He double checks anyway. My father didn't leave me any words. All I found on a slip of paper as proof that I existed were the words, "Send Candy a card," written on a scratch paper in his apartment in Bushwick. He wanted to be a writer. I had asked of him to write me stories about his life. I wanted to know about him. I once found a love letter he had written to my mother after he had left her and me. He used the Oxford comma, just like I do. Overuse, really. Very expressive. We share that. I always knew that this beatnik artist's soul came from him. I could feel it. For a writer, he didn't leave me any words. My grandmother, Immacula Clercelia Petty, she sent me, when I was 7 years old, Creole without fuss and tears. It was a cassette tape and book. I learned, Nous pral Haiti. We are going to Haiti. Famille, family. My father taught me words I never wanted to say. Broken home, fatherless, unwanted, unspoken for. He taught me nothing of value, and I would use every bit of it. He never heard these words. I half expected to see some writing that expressed remorse, but nothing. Just send Candy a card. That was all. The most loving phrase he could utter was silence. He spoke so many languages, but for me, he couldn't learn a new language. He wouldn't learn a new language. So he gave me all the silence I could handle, all the silence I could fill my mouth up with. I'd travel everywhere planning his funeral, hearing the stories about him and his sordid affairs. How can one man cause so much damage? I wait for someone to say it, for someone to tell a true story, but they all leave out one word: addict. My father is a despot. Half of something in my blood is made up of this evil man. I want to rip him from me. I want to rampage through my blood and destroy every ounce of him within me, uproot half of my family tree, limb by limb. We, the forgotten and abandoned sons and daughters, we are the children of a lesser God, children of the bastard God. the illegitimate heir of heaven who can now only rule the lowly. Struggle is our mantle. We reek of forced humility caused by a cosmic Russian roulette that we have lost. I wonder, is this my heaven? What does that make me? Who do I become? What do I inherit when your bloodline is accursed and the family god is a drunkard? Who guards the ancestral sounds when the cords are cut? What deity did my great-grandmothers offend to warrant this consternation on our name, to make me drink sorrow and breast milk? What did you pass to me? Do I pay for the sins of my father? How long will these curses visit me? And why has he left me anger and confusion, shame and consternation as my inheritance? Why do we always look like the parent who left? Who curses us, the abandoned ones, to wear the faces of our torturer? To be haunted by the ghost visage of my father returning my gaze through my face, replicated in the face of my sons. Why are we accursed to see the abandonment and forced to love them before we can even love ourselves? What irony, what fake justice is this to force our hands in this manner? When fathers leave daughters, they leave them open graves, memorials to be revisited again and again, eulogized in unspoken ways, unnamed testaments to a loss that never had a before or an after, only and always was. I tried to give my father a eulogy, but I didn't have any stories to tell. How do you tell stories without any words? Without language to use? Without access to his lands? Just pieces. Missing pieces. I'm a broken container, and the grief is spilling out of me like a water washing over me in waves, undulating waves pouring from my chest. Hot, burning water crashing against my bones. I open my mouth to scream, but instead of sound, water gushes out in torrents, waterfalls, rivers, streams, pouring from my lips with such force that my eyes started to water, and this salt water began to flood from my eyes. Endless waters flooding me, covering the entire world. And I'm fighting now. I'm fighting to get to the surface, fighting to get free, but I'm being pulled under, caught in the undertow of my own waters. And soon the weight of this water is such that I can't breathe. I'm underneath it, being thrashed about, pulled and pulled by a tether, by some kind of string. And I don't want to drown. I want to go back to where I was, to who I was. Yet this water, it's so beautiful and clear and suffocating. So I relent. I stop fighting and take a breath and let the water take me. know who you are.
I expect you should know me quite well.
Where are we going?
We are in the in-between, but this isn't your final destination.
I can hear you almost as if you're in my head, but I don't hear any words.
Speaking is the worst form of communication. There are better ways to communicate. Mouths are for humans.
For what reason have you brought me here?
You have been brought here, but not by me.
To die?
What is death but a crossroads? You are at a crossroads, and there is a wisdom that the living can only acquire from their dead.
How do I find him?
Look at what is looking at you, but be careful that what you see doesn't trap you.
But where do I...
Listen carefully, témoin. Walk forward. You'll meet a man. It is important that you give to him whatever he asks for. Remember my words. There are two things for you to remember on your journey. You always have what you need. And the long way home is still a way home. But if you do not find what you are looking for, you will get stuck.
What am I looking for? Wait, what am I looking for?
Ou pas qu'on koto yé là. Comment faire arriver là?
I don't know where I am or how I got
Langage
here.
pas vle di rien à moun ki en bas de l'eau.
On bad low. Underwater?
Qui est-ce qui relè ou?
I don't know who called me. I heard a woman's voice.
M'pa ka kito ou traverser. Son pa ba yon bagay.
What do you mean I need something to cross? Cross where? I don't.
So possédé.
No, I don't have anything. The only thing I have to me is my name. I don't even know where I am.
Comment yo relè ou? Ki non?
My family calls me Candy.
Yo! Ok. Ma pran sa nan men ou.
I can go?
Men, lèm relè ou, c'est pou vini. Pi ga oubliye.
Okay, when you call, I will come. Thank you. When ça se point, Gramma moué, di sa yo café. When ça se point, Gramma moué, ma mande sa yo café. Ma poana wambwa, ma poa cherche peyo, ma poana wambwa. Si pa capote ma wole.
When ça se point, Wamo
Di sa yo café. When ça se point, Wamo ma mande sa yo café. Ma pana guamwa, ma poa cherche ma pana guamwa, si pa capote ma wole.
When ça se point,
Guamwa, di sa yo café. When ça se point, Guamwa, ma mande sa yo café. Ma poana guamwa, ma poa cherche ma poana guamwa, si pa capote ma wole. Where did you get that hat? Little boy, where did you get that hat? I didn't see you looking at me.
Why are you here, Guinea?
Well, I'm here to find the man that used to wear that hat.
I know where your father is.
You do? Great. Would you take me to him? He has something that I need, so I just need to get that from him. If you can take me, that would be great. We can play a game. We can make a game of it. Yes. A dance. Great.
Tell me your story and I'll help you out.
Okay. What kind of story?
A love story.
Oh, a love story. Okay. Well. Oh, once upon a time.
No, tell me a love story about your father.
I know a lot of other stories. I can tell you so many other stories. A love story about a princess, maybe? Yeah, no. I don't have a love story about my father. I didn't really know my father, so that's not fair to ask me. No. Come back. No, this isn't a game. I've got to go home, and I need to find him. Wait. What? No. What? No, please. No. He didn't give me a love story. I don't even know him. Please, I don't.
Why are you crying?
I keep trying to find my father, and I can't. I can't
Stop
find
fighting. You can't fight your bloodline. This blood is not a trap, my dear. It's a tether.
Tether to what?
To Tsakipu. To all that is yours. All that was your father's is yours.
But he didn't have anything. He gave me nothing but emptiness.
Did you not know that emptiness is a gift? It is a container. You choose what to fill it with.
But all I have is grief.
Grief is a water, an ocean that many of us have crossed. You are water, dear one. Your father was too, but he didn't know it. He burned up his ocean and gave you what he had left, the salt, to preserve what you choose to keep. Use that salt wisely.
I know who you are. Your voice. You were calling me.
We? Yes.
But why?
Because you are mine.
From my grandmother.
Yes, for me.
Oh my God. My father didn't give me anything, and I tried to connect to you and to Haiti and...
Do you see this soil, this land? This is your land. Saseteu. The land of Haiti is in you. What is in you can never be taken. It can be forgotten, but never lost. The language, the words, are in your blood, in your bones. What is in the blood can never be bled out. You can never lose what is in you, because it is not yours alone to lose. It is all ours. Together, you can always come back to it. You can always come back home. Your mother named you right. She gave you honey to make life sweet. Keep it near you always.
I will.
The gate is closing, and you must go back.
Wait, and I don't want to go back without you.
Wherever you are, we are. Nous toutes, all of us. All of your ancestors. Always. Now close your eyes. Don't feel your waters. Feel them. Let them wash you back to yourself. Back home.
I closed my eyes and I was back underwater. En bas de l'eau. But this time, it was a baptism. The memories of those who came before me sounded all around me. Back to Haiti and beyond. Stories of love, of loss, of grief, of trauma, of pain, of joy, of sun, of laughter, of lands and hills, mountains and river basins, of laughter, of joy, of death, and of life. So much life. Messy, complicated life. But life, nonetheless.
I had previously written a eulogy for this part of the performance, but less than 2 weeks ago, my uncle sent me a narrative my father had written about his time in the Army during Vietnam, almost as if my father wanted me to know his perspective and what had happened to him. In the narrative, my father used the phrase, children of a lesser God. It's a phrase I used in the writing of this piece as well. I was dumbfounded. We really do write the same. He wrote that narrative on Veterans Day, November 11th, 2017, a day before my birthday on November 12th. It's noteworthy to me now because my father's time serving during the Vietnam War set the course for the rest of his life in America. So it seems equally noteworthy that I should be born the day after Veterans Day. Instead of telling this part of his story, I'm going to let him tell it by reading the words from his own narrative. My father, Emmanuel de Meza, was born March 22nd, 1952 in the mountainous island nation of Haiti to Immaculée Clercelia Petit and Jacques de Meza. And this is the eulogy that I never gave him. He says, I enlisted in the U.S. Army at McAfee Army Enlistment Center under the direction of Sergeant Murphy. My family situation was such that I could only spare time under a 2-year enlistment term. I had only been in the country 1 year, having arrived from Haiti on October 10th, 1970. I was the sole hope culturally for the family. Length of service and assignment to a non-combat zone were of prime import to me, and made this clear to Sergeant Murphy. I had left behind my mother, 6 brothers and 2 sisters, a helpless family living under the brutal Papa Doc regime of the Tonton Macoutes was a worrisome prospect and one which would dominate my thought processes throughout my whole period of service. Sergeant Murphy suggested that, seeing the circumstances, I wrote out on the enlistment contract the following, indicating my choice and preference. I, Emmanuel de Meza, hereby volunteer for the draft. That was supposed to guarantee that my term contract of enlistment would be only 2 years. I apprised my mother in Haiti of this action and shipped out to basic training in Fort Dix, New Jersey on October 10th, 1971, exactly 1 year to the day of my entry into the United States. My father, at the time of enlistment, was 19 years old, a baby. He goes on to say, I became more and more disillusioned and depressed. I lost faith in my superiors and lost respect for the values I had signed up for, questioning the very truths professed by the U.S. Army. I could not explain my state of mind at this junction. I remember writing a poem in which I tried to describe the situation as a nightmare of insanity. Visions of walking a tightrope with an abyss on the right, insanity on the left, destruction either way. Terms like white man's burden, children of a lesser God, began to flesh out in my mind. Then something very dangerous began toying with my mind. The idea of institutionalized racism didn't seem so far-fetched anymore. The more I researched, concepts such as 2/3 of a man, inferior slavery-bound species, cruel and unusual punishment, the concept of lynching. I was always a God-fearing man, so I, through prayer, redeemed my spirituality from the edge of the precipice and decided to let go, let God. It's not always easy, but the alternative is keeping the soul, faith, belief, hope. Years have since then come and gone as cigarette butts drifting down gutters. A man ain't supposed to cry. Suicide is not an option. I tried. I was drifting in life asking anyone who'd listen, what is the matter with me? So I dropped out of Rutgers University Management Program. I became homeless, living on the streets of New York, Miami, Los Angeles, etc. I became like the proverbial story of Sisyphus rolling up the huge stone, which when it got to the top, began rolling back down the hill. Hard to delineate my state of mind. On this November 11th, 2017 Veterans Day, a quarter of a century since I wrote those words, I hereby volunteer for the draft. My trust in one white man has nearly destroyed my soul. As I attempt to complete this, a tsunami floods the shores of my mind. What it is that I am currently revisiting in dreams, visions, and flashbacks brings back too much for me. I shall have to continue the last pages in an addendum. Many immigrants enlist in the military for the promise of citizenship, and my father, a Haitian immigrant, was no different. My father was able to send for his mother and his siblings. Almost all of them are in America now, doing well, as are their children. My father spent many years struggling with mental illness, PTSD. He lived and he died as an addict. He did a great many terrible things, left a lot of pain and destruction in his wake, and yet I also recognize the high cost of war, a cost that many families have to pay for, costs that are paid for generations, and how the historical and continuing stigma around mental health has cost so many of us our lives and cost us our families. At the time of my father's death, I didn't know why I was there planning his funeral. I told myself I was being a good person because he obviously didn't deserve that act of generosity from me. And I was just being gracious. But the truth is, my father was mine and I was his. And I loved him even though I couldn't have him. And he loved me as well as an addiction would allow. My father was teaching me how to swim at 6 months old. And now because of him, I'm learning a lot more. I'm learning how to hold love and anger in the same hand. I'm learning that forgiveness is a journey. I'm learning that emptiness truly is a gift. I'm learning that sometimes redemption is the long way home. The story of my father and I is not the story that I wanted. It's the story that I have. And in its own way, it is a love story. Even with all the salt, there's still so much honey. My mother, Jackie, the legacy of family that my grandmother, Immaculata Clarcelia Petsy, left me. My numerous aunts and uncles, cousins, my sons, myself, other friends and family. And in life, this salt and honey often comes together. So what is to be done with this salt and this honey and this stories of land and living? Combine it all and make a tea. A ritual for grief. Take the water of your grief and pour it into the container of your emptiness. Take a handful of the land, Place it inside. Take the salt from your tears to preserve what you choose. And take a heaping spoon of honey to make it sweet. Now stir, stir, stir. And let it steep over the fires of your anger, the fires of war, land loss, diaspora, displacement, immigration, abandonment, separation. And then we pour it onto the floor 3 times. 1, for those that loved us in the flesh, because they love us so much more now, fiercely in the spirit world. 2, for our dishonorable dead, for the stories of those who didn't get it right, the complicated stories that we don't want to retell or remember. And 3, for those who lay unclaimed, the ungrieved losses from across time, those we lost before we ever had them. We pour out water for them because they deserve water too. And now, we drink for us, for our children, and for all those to come, because all of them are ours, no matter how complex and painful that is. They are our pieces. We are made whole through them. So tell your stories as you sip this tea. Tell all of your people's stories. The ugly stories, tell them true. The glorious stories, tell them with a tear in your eye. Tell your children these stories. Use all the words in your blood, all the words in your bones. Tell the stories around the fire. And remember your dead, the beloved and the dishonorable. Remember them, learn from them, reclaim the lands lost in your bloodlines. And when grief calls for you again, as it surely will, keep the kettle on. So you can always find your way back home.